Imagine being wrongfully imprisoned for almost half a century for a crime you didn't commit. This was the reality for Glynn Simmons, a reality that is more akin to a nightmare, born out of the imperfect webs of our justice system. In the year 1974, Glynn Simmons was accused of a liquor store robbery and a murder in Oklahoma. The evidence? There was none. No physical traces tying him to the crime scene. The conviction hinged solely on the testimony of an 18-year-old eyewitness, a testimony that would later prove to be as unreliable as it was damaging. It's important to note that this eyewitness never identified Simmons in a lineup, a crucial detail that, somehow, was overlooked. Moreover, multiple witnesses placed Simmons in Louisiana at the time of the crime, effectively providing him with an alibi. Yet, none of these facts seemed to matter in the eyes of the court. The gavel fell, and Simmons was sentenced to a life behind bars, a life he was forced to accept, despite knowing in his heart that he was innocent. Simmons' case was a travesty, a glaring example of justice gone awry. It was a tale of a man wronged, a life stolen, and a system that failed to uphold its promise of fairness and justice. And so, Glynn Simmons, an innocent man, was made to pay the price for a crime he did not commit. He spent 48 years, 1 month and 18 days inside prison walls maintaining his innocence. A stark reminder of the flaws in our justice system and the lives that are affected by these imperfections. Simmons's fight for justice was a long and grueling one. In the early stages, his case was riddled with inconsistencies and overlooked evidence. It took years of perseverance and the relentless pursuit of truth by Simmons's lawyer to finally unearth the crucial evidence that had been overlooked during the initial trial. A glimmer of hope appeared when Simmons' co-defendant Don Roberts was released on parole in 2008. However, for Simmons, the fight was far from over. He remained behind bars, holding on to the hope of vindication. The turning point came when his lawyer discovered that the eyewitness testimony, the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, was inherently flawed. Despite no physical evidence linking Simmons to the crime scene, his conviction was based on the shaky testimony of an 18-year-old witness. But the truth was, this witness had never identified Simmons and Roberts in a lineup. More so, several witnesses could place Simmons in Louisiana, not Oklahoma, at the time of the murder. This newfound evidence ignited a push to exonerate Simmons. It wasn't an easy battle. It was a fight against time, against an unyielding system, against decades of perceived guilt. But Simmons' spirit was unbroken, his determination unwavering. After pushing through countless legal hurdles and bureaucratic red tape, the day of reckoning finally arrived. In 2023, after a painstakingly long wait of 48 years, 1 month and 18 days, Simmons was declared innocent by a judge. After almost 5 decades, Simmons was finally released from prison. His fight for justice was over, but a new chapter was just beginning. The battle scars from his grueling journey remain, a poignant reminder of his struggle for justice, but also a testament to his resilience. The fight was long and arduous, but in the end, justice prevailed. Freedom after so many years should have been a cause for celebration, but for Simmons, it was bittersweet. Imagine walking out of the prison gates after almost 50 years, expecting to breathe in the sweet scent of liberty. But for Glynn Simmons, the air was tainted with the bitter taste of terminal illness. With newfound freedom came an unwelcome companion, stage 4 colon cancer. The prognosis was grim, offering minimal chances of survival. Life outside the prison walls was meant to be a fresh start, a new chapter. But for Simmons, it felt like a cruel twist of fate, a countdown to an ending he didn't deserve. In theory, there was a silver lining. As a man wrongfully imprisoned, Simmons was entitled to a compensation sum of $175,000 from the state of Oklahoma. It was a small price for the state to pay for robbing a man of his freedom, of his life. Yet, the money never came. The promise of financial reparation remained just that, a promise. In the face of mounting medical bills and the cost of living, Simmons turned to the kindness of strangers. A GoFundMe campaign was his lifeline, filling in for the compensation that was inexplicably yet to arrive. The generosity of people known and unknown was heartwarming. But it was a stark reminder of the state's failing, a glaring spotlight on the justice system's inadequacy. Despite being declared innocent by a judge, Simmons's prospects remained uncertain. His life was a paradox. He was a free man, yet trapped by his failing health. He was declared innocent, yet he was paying the price for a crime he didn't commit. He was entitled to compensation, yet he was relying on the charity of strangers. It was a freedom that was as sweet as it was bitter, a freedom that was as liberating as it was confining, a freedom that was as hopeful as it was despairing. It was in every sense of the word a bittersweet freedom. Simmons's story did not end with his release. It continued with frustration and a fight for accountability. Glynn Simmons, after spending more than 4 decades behind bars for a crime he did not commit, found himself battling not only a dire health condition but also an indifferent legal system. Despite being declared innocent, the district attorney and the attorney general have yet to take decisive action regarding his case. The state of Oklahoma owes Simmons a compensation of $175,000 for the years stolen from him. However, he has yet to receive a single cent. The reality of the situation is heartbreaking. Here is a man who was wrongfully imprisoned for 48 years, 1 month, and 18 days, and even after his release, he is still waiting for the state to right its wrongs. Simmons is not just fighting for compensation, but for an apology, for acknowledgement of the grave injustice done to him. He is frustrated with the legal system, frustrated with the state that has yet to apologize, yet to offer adequate compensation for his lost years. It's a difficult pill to swallow, knowing that you were robbed of a significant portion of your life for a crime you didn't commit. But what adds salt to the wound is the lack of accountability from the very system that should uphold justice. In the face of all these challenges, Simmons remains resilient. He is not just a man wronged by the system, he is a symbol of the struggle for justice. His story is a stark reminder that the fight for justice does not end at the prison gates. It continues in every corner of our society where there is a need for accountability, for truth, and for justice. Simmons' fight for justice continues even outside prison walls. Glynn Simmons' story is more than a story of wrongful conviction. It is a story of resilience, perseverance, and the fight for justice. His journey is a harrowing testament to the flaws in our justice system, a system that kept an innocent man behind bars for nearly 5 decades. His tale exposes the chilling reality of wrongful convictions, the importance of due process, and the urgent need for reform. Simmons' saga began in 1974 with a murder charge he vehemently denied. Despite the lack of physical evidence and multiple witnesses placing him elsewhere, an 18-year-old eyewitness testimony was enough to seal his fate. Tragically, it would take 48 years, 1 month, and 18 days for his innocence to be recognized by the very system that wronged him. Yet, the legacy of Glynn Simmons isn't just about the failings of the justice system, it's also about the triumph of the human spirit. Despite the odds, Simmons never stopped fighting for his innocence. He remained steadfast, resilient, even in the face of the most daunting adversities. His story is a powerful reminder that truth and justice, while sometimes delayed, should never be abandoned. Simmons's legacy also underscores the critical role of advocacy in our society. His eventual exoneration wasn't a solo effort, it was the result of persistent advocacy and the unwavering belief in his innocence. His case serves as a powerful call to action for us all, to question, to challenge, to advocate for those who cannot do so for themselves. As we reflect on Simmons's journey, we're reminded of the importance of not just recognizing his innocence but ensuring he receives the justice he deserves. At 71, he is entitled to compensation, yet he waits. He is eligible to file a federal lawsuit seeking damages, yet his future remains uncertain. His fight for justice continues even in the twilight of his life. Glynn Simmons' fight for justice is a testament to his strength and resilience. His story is a reminder that justice sometimes is a long and hard-fought battle. As we grapple with the lessons of his life, let us strive to ensure that no one else has to endure what Simmons has. Let us work towards a justice system that is truly just, fair, and accountable. After all, justice delayed is justice denied.